Hey, caregiver, this is the place where faith meets caregiving. Caregivers find strength to keep going, keep pushing, keep loving, and keep caring.
Hey, caregivers. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to give everybody just a few moments. I know we are live on Facebook and YouTube, so I'm going to give everybody just a moment to get on before we start to get into our podcast on tonight. When you come in, if you would just do me a favor and just let us know where it is you are listening from. I'm going to share this and I'm going to ask you to do the same thing when you are on. Go ahead and share it. Let us know where you're listening from. Hey, Cheryl Ann. She is on tonight. So good to see you. So good to have you on. And so, of course, I am Priscilla Jean-Louis. I am the podcast host for my favorite girl, Caregivers Corner. It's been a minute, but we are back and we are live. And so this podcast, this is our first from Tampa. Thank you. All the way from Florida. Thank you so very much for being on with us on tonight. This is our live session, our live podcast. We are in season 6, episode 1, and I am excited that this particular season, we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're going to do live podcasts. And the reason why we decided to do that is because we want to be able to be more interactive, have so many people contact me all the time, have questions. And I know when you're listening to the podcast, and we will still have the podcasts that aren't live, but we want to do more podcasts that are live so that while we are talking with the guest, if you have questions, if you want to comment, you have that opportunity to do so. And so I'm excited about where we are going this season. I'm excited about all of the guests that are coming on to be with us, but I'm just happy to be back with you all for another season of the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. Of course, this podcast was created with you in mind, and our mission is simple. It's to bring inspiration, education, resources, hope, and strength to caregivers so you can keep going, keep pushing, keep loving, and by all means, as I always say, keep caring. So listen, before I move further, I want you to do me a favor. Once again, go ahead, hit that share button, like the podcast, like the page, follow the page, tag somebody else. If there's a caregiver out there, somebody that you know are caregiving, not just for people with dementia. Okay, this podcast is not just for those who are living with dementia. As I often say, that's my journey. But caregivers are caregivers. And so if you know a caregiver who is out there caring for a loved one, tag them right now and ask them to get on. We have a very exciting show for you tonight, exciting podcast. You all see my guest. He's already on here. I'm going to give a little time before I actually introduce him, but go ahead, take this moment right now and share the podcast with your family, with your friends. The whole goal of this is to create a community, to be able to engage with you all in real time. And so while we are talking on tonight, while we're in this conversation, we want you to join in the conversation. If you have a question, put it in the chat. If you have a comment, put it in the chat. Ask your questions, all of that. Share your journey with us as best you can. But we want to be able to engage and have this conversation, not just the two of us, but everybody that's on. All right. Thank you all so very much again for listening. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right on into this conversation. Our guest for tonight, believe it or not, y'all, I don't know him personally. I just met him myself right before we came in. We've been on conversing, but I actually saw his journey on Facebook. And I told him a little bit earlier, I know it's kind of weird when people just message you on Facebook, but after I was reading some of his journey, I read one thing in particular on here. There was a post that he made back on March 22nd, and it really resonated with me. I'm going to read a little bit of that. He wrote on there, he said, people often talk about the grief of losing a loved one, but they rarely speak about the grief of losing the role. For years, I was the caregiver. It was an identity that required every ounce of my strength, patience, and love. When that role vanished, I felt untethered. The house once filled with music I played to soothe her, now echoed only with my own footsteps. I began to realize that the silence wasn't just about her absence, it was about the end of our shared journey. The struggles, the hospital runs, the fear, and the small, beautiful moments of connection we found amidst the fog of Alzheimer's. It had all culminated in this quiet. And when I read that part that says that people often talk about the grief of losing a loved one, but rarely speak about the grief of losing the role, I knew that that was a discussion that I wanted to have on the podcast. And so I reached out to him on Facebook, sent him a message and let him know who I was and asked if he would come on. And so he agreed immediately, and I was thankful. And so here we are. And tonight, as you can see, the conversation that we're going to have tonight is about the silence after caregiving, when love remains, but the role ends. And I know that there are some of you out there who are in the same space. I know I have a dear friend of mine, and she just buried her mom. Her mom was living with Alzheimer's as well, and she just laid her to rest on last week. Have some other friends of mine who are in the same space. And so that is what we want to deal with tonight. You know, the role is over, but what do you do? Where do you go from here? And so that's where we're going to be tonight. And so what I want to do before I actually officially bring him in, I want to give you a little bit of his background. Larry's life was reshaped by a quiet but powerful choice to step away from a successful corporate career and fully care for his family. As a devoted son behind the Queen Norma videos, he brought light into the darkness of dementia, using music and joy to connect with his mother and unexpectedly the world. After her passing in 2022, Larry faced a different kind of challenge: life without the role that had defined him, grieving not just his mother, but his purpose. He continues to navigate this loss with honesty and heart. Today, Larry shares his journey to remind others that even at the caregiving end, love remains, and no one has to walk this path alone. Before I welcome him to the podcast, I want you all to take a look at this video, and we're going to meet Larry's mother, Norma.
After being involved with this for so long, and with so many people that have been in touch with me, I've learned about Alzheimer's and dementia and what people go through. You never really know what's going through in their head, but you can kind of get some reactions here and there if you give them that stimuli. Music's worked for us. Being out here in the park has worked for us. Communication with others works for her, and it does work for others. So you stick with what works.
Absolutely beautiful. You all do me a favor and help me to welcome Larry Griner. Welcome to the podcast, Larry.
Thank you, Priscilla. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate you for allowing us to meet your mom through the video as well. Absolutely beautiful. You have a comment on there that says, wow, he looks just like his mother. And so as we get into this conversation, if you can take me back to the beginning of your caregiver journey with your mom, how did that all start?
Well, it started, excuse me, after my brother had been caring for my mom for about 4+ years on his own. And I was in California and they were in Baltimore, and I did not see what he was going through. And eventually he got to a point where it broke him. He already had a family he was dealing with, full-time job, so on. And it was necessary to have somebody with our mom, 24/7. We were lucky enough to get a caregiver that came in 7 days a week, and that gave him the opportunity to get away. But eventually that still takes its toll. And eventually he reached out to myself and my other siblings, and I was the one that was free enough to be able to get away, and packed my life in a storage locker and came home for about 3 months just to take care of my mom in 2013. Only to be introduced to not just the Alzheimer's, the disease, but the caregiving role. And even within 2 weeks, it broke me, not being understanding what I was getting into. But it was something that was sort of an eye-opening experience, of course, to recognize that it wasn't just a matter of babysitting your mom who was suffering from a disease, but it's also having to adjust to all the different changes that she goes through and that I was going through by witnessing what she was going through. And so that was in 2013 that I did for 3 months. I took a leave of absence from work and had the opportunity to spend that quality time with her, and eventually recognized that even with that time with her, giving my brother a break, I was going back to California to go back to work. But that was okay at that time because it gave my brother a break that he had not had for those 4+ years taking care of her. But that was my introduction. And then from there, I recognized it was going to be a necessity of coming back home again to be able to relieve him, because he was a full-time caregiver. Even though he had a job and a family and everything else, he was still monitoring my mother basically 7 days a week outside of his little bit of time with his family and his job. And I recognized that I had to get back and do what I could, because eventually I recognized I was missing time because of my mom's disease. And so in 2014, I actually resigned my job and went back home for an entire year, hoping that we could have found something a little bit more permanent for my mother, to give my brother a break and basically have all the siblings be sort of independent in their lives. And but it turned into something a whole lot more, because again, the disease was starting to progress, and you recognize it isn't something you can just pop your head into here and there to take care of her. So that role basically took on another stage of not just watching over her, but also giving her a little bit of substance of life, getting her out and being interactive in the community, into a park we went to, enjoying other aspects other than just sitting in a chair watching TV all day long. But that was another part of my education and my opportunity to be able to give her something that she was not having just by being home with a caregiver that was watching over her for a set amount of time. But that eventually started to take its toll on me, to the extent where I wasn't treating myself or actually giving myself an opportunity to learn how to take care of me, because the role takes over of being 100% into your mom or your loved one that is suffering from this disease, but you're not doing those little extra things to make sure that I'm staying emotionally healthy, physically healthy, and so on and so on. And it got to a point at that point where I had to eventually leave again to come back to California. And that was an opportunity for me to sort of catch my breath again before I returned a third time in 2018. And it was at that juncture that my mom did not know who I was. The 2 first times I was home, she recognized I was her son. But it was at that juncture I went home for a quick funeral for a family member. And it was that one moment in 2017 that I stepped into the kitchen and she was sitting there. And I kind of made an entrance and she looked at me and did not know who I was. I can literally say, and it still gets me emotional, that was one of the worst times of my life. and recognized at that point I could not stay away again because I was losing more time with her. So I went back to California, and the job I had just started months earlier, I had to resign again because I recognized my need was to be home, not just with mom for myself, but for my brother and my siblings, because they had other responsibilities that they had. And this was my time to actually start to grow within that role, to learn what I needed to do, to understand not just what she was going through, but what I was going through and how to adapt along the way. And it just turned into a journey that I never expected, not just within the caregiver role, but because of the way we connected and was able to share it on Facebook and YouTube, where that our journey sort of became worldwide with the videos we used to do and the connection that we made. Which gave me the sort of strength and understanding of how I could not just connect with mom, but also show other people that were going through this journey how they connect with their loved ones. So it turned into something that was completely unexpected. And here I am now, even after mom has passed. It's given me that passion and desire to help other people that are going through that journey and are struggling. They're struggling. But we always say the person that really knows best to help you is somebody that has walked in your shoes. And that's what I'm doing today.
Absolutely. And I want to go back just a little bit to something you said. You said after about 2 weeks, it took a toll on you when you first went back.
The first time I went home, I my understanding of Alzheimer's or dementia, okay, they don't remember. Mom remembered me, but there was so many other things, the short-term conversations you would have. Or, hey, mom, do you remember when I was in high school? Yeah. No, she did not remember that. And that aspect of, again, learning sundowners. Well, I had Alzheimer's. The sundowners themselves. How do I adjust to that? To the point where you're constantly saying in the beginning, hey, mom, do you remember? But she doesn't. And then I thought maybe it was personal or something. Just those conversations that you would have that you thought, how could she forget something I just talked to her about minutes ago? But then you come to the realization, this is what the disease does. And literally within 2 weeks, the first time I went home, again, it gets me. I found myself going to bed after I put her to bed and was bawling my eyes out, really saying, and I talked to God that night, and he knew why I was there to help take care of my mom. But I actually praised him, please, but forgive everything that comes out of my mouth. Because at that point, I did not have all those tools to use to be able to adjust to mom's changes, to adjust to my changes. So my patience was not there. My frustration was high. My lack of understanding of what this really does, not just to my mom or anybody else that suffers from this disease, but what it does to the caregiver.
Yeah.
Because when you don't know what you're getting into, it affects you 10 times more. And so you have to go through those adjustments. And I learned the hard way. But at that point, I recognized I had a role, not just for my mom, but for myself, to make myself better so that I was doing the right things for her and with her.
Yeah. And there's an emotional side of it. Even when you mentioned going home and her not knowing your name, I still remember to this day, the very moment when my mom looked at me and said, "Who are you?" That's a type of gut-wrenching pain that, it hits you like suddenly. And that side of it, it just doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. And so thank you for recognizing, what does it say? I think it's so important for us to tell others it is more than just mom telling the same story over and over again and forgetting. Yeah. Yeah. It's more than that, and
Right.
in the beginning, just like you, I didn't have the knowledge and the tools to be able to cope, and to know the asking me over and over didn't really get on my nerves. I think I've seen dementia so much because, this kind of runs in our family. So I'd seen it so much until you kind of know that's something that comes along with it, that it's just that over and over. But there's some people who get totally aggravated by, why are you asking me this? I just told you this. And sometimes it is the blowing off the handle, right? Because you're frustrated because why am I having to say this over and over again? But then
Mhm.
you learn those tools, and then you're able to adjust and do it better. And so having to go back now, let me ask this question: with your siblings, is it all male,
No,
or
I
do
have
you have?
two younger brothers
Oh,
and
okay,
an older
okay,
sister. So,
okay.
you know, but
How did that work for
my
you?
first, my,
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it went out a little bit. I was about to ask as well, just to hit on this side a little bit. Being 3,000 miles away from where your mom was, how did that work for you as a caregiver? Were there some things you were able to do from that distance that, you may not have had that presence there, but were there things that you were able to do to assist your brother even being so far away? Because sometimes people think that, long distance, I can't do anything. But are there any things that you were able to do from that distance to assist him?
Once you understand what my brother was going through, there might be certain things that you can contribute, whether or not it's just conversation, how you doing? Maybe, hey, here's some money for you to get a caregiver, for a night so you can get away. My thing when mom was diagnosed, or when the family found out she had Alzheimer's, I was living in California, and my brother immediately had to start, he had to move back into my mom's house to take care of her. These were things I did not observe, I did not know. He's my hero, because my brother took care of my mom for 4 years and never complained, going through all of that Alzheimer's adjustment and having to deal with all her circumstances with the home, the bills, everything, because mom was not capable of doing those things. And he never complained. And it wasn't until 4+ years in where he said to me and my other brother and sister, and says, I can't take this anymore, because any sense of any life was gone, along with his full-time job, along with his two younger children he had at home, another home that he had to deal with. He had to deal with my mom full-time. We were lucky to have a caregiver that was in for 12 hours a day. That gave him an opportunity to go to work and do some errands and everything. But I never heard. And the thing is, I never asked. I did not know to ask, because I did not see what he was going through, and he did not complain what he was going through. And that's where I recognized I owed him more than anything, because of what he did for all of us. And being the only sibling that wasn't married, didn't have any children, no mortgage or anything, I had the luxury to be able to go home, put my stuff in storage, and go back to Baltimore to be able to take care of mom for the short amount of time the first time. And then for an entire year in 2014, I did it again a second time. And the circumstances with me not being able to give him the support he needed when he was doing it is because I was unaware. And that's one of the issues that I know a lot of people that go through caregiving, when you have the siblings or spouses or just relatives in general, who don't inquire about what's going on. Yeah, I knew mom had a problem. She had Alzheimer's, but I didn't understand Alzheimer's. You can't
Yeah.
understand it until you're a part of it, until you experience it. You can say, well, yeah, they don't remember your name. Well, heck, I can't remember the person I met 10 minutes ago sometimes. But the circumstances with your loved one going through this on a daily, and then with the sundowners, and then with the unfocused, and then with the anxiety, all those things combined that you go through on a daily and sometimes hourly are what take the toll within the caregiver. And so he did not complain. And of course, the disease wasn't as progressed back in those early years. So it was a little bit more manageable. But of course, I was not there. I was 3,000 miles away. I could not observe that. It wasn't until I came home in 2013 to spend those 3 months initially to actually be able to experience it. And like I said, because I wasn't prepared for it and didn't understand it, 2 weeks in, I'm up in bed crying my eyes out. I was just basically asking for forgiveness, to give me more patience, to get over my frustration, to be able to understand that this is not her fault. It's the disease. Those things you learn as you go. You have to be their memory. You have to be their psychologist. You have to be their motivator, their initiator, everything within their lifestyle. That's what you become when you're not prepared to do it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But you learn that role as the time goes on. And so that's how I kind of adjusted enough to get through that first stint and was more prepared when I came home the second time.
Okay. Okay. There's a question out here for you. It says to Larry, how are you recovering from caregiving? We're going to get to that part, but you can answer that question. How are you recovering from it?
Right now, my recovery comes from helping others. And Carlos, who just wrote that message, we're good friends. You can't get away from the emotions of losing your loved one. Period. You have a loss in your family. You can never compare that loss, I think. But somebody with Alzheimer's, dementia, there's a different type of emotions you go through because you've lost them even while they were here. And
while they're here. Yep.
Yeah. But for now, I know my adjustment has been, I'm lucky. I'm so lucky to have befriended so many people through the Facebook webpage, and that have learned to love Mom and have reached out to me with their comments and suggestions and support through my years with Mom. And that has sustained me, being able to continue showing her videos that impact people literally worldwide to keep her legacy growing. That has sustained me. And to be able to talk to people face to face when I work at a local establishment here, to find somebody that says, oh, I'm starting to see changes in my loved one. And I'm saying, well, has it been diagnosed? Yeah, they have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Boom. I'm there to help you. That sustains me. That's my therapy. I can't just sit back. When I sit back alone, I have the videos I can watch. And yes, I tear up here and there, but I laugh a lot also. I can be appreciative that I gave Mom the best of me at that time. That's how I get through this. You have to find that something. It's good if you have family around you, if you have people that understand what you went through, just to be with somebody. But I live alone, and it's okay. I have some people that I do associate with, but I still find it difficult to assimilate completely because her presence is still with me. Her loss is still with me. And that's just going to have to be a time thing. I recognize that. Every anniversary that comes up, every holiday is still a remembrance of what we went through, the good times and the bad. But now that the quote unquote bad is gone because of her passing, the good times are what we shared, are what sustained me, those good time memories. And I mentioned to a lot of people, as you're going through your journey, capture those good moments, create those happy moments, capture them on video, on film, whatever, because being able to look back on those are like gold to you, and they will help you get through those tough times. And that's what I do.
Yep. While caring for my mom, I would listen to Larry and Norma on Facebook the last thing at night. It gave me immense comfort. Thank you, Miss Pam, for being on. And that's what it's all about, right? That's exactly what it's all about. I share a video of my mom, that's where my favorite girl comes from. I call her my favorite girl. And so I share video of her, and there are people who just, they love to see her. In the beginning, I would do it. My mama moments is what I call them, because she would just say the funniest things. And so I would write those things out and just, have those moments, and, I put her on there. But it is to be able to hold on to those memories. You keep their integrity at the same time, but eventually sometime, that's all you're going to have. You're going to have those moments. And you said something else that's very important. You gave her everything that you have. Every single thing that you have, you gave it to her. And that becomes important. Now, Kaylin, there's another comment that popped up about, I'm going to go back. Okay. Knowing that we can still create happy moments is important. Understanding that helped me to do so much with my mom. Yeah. And that's my friend Cheryl Ann there. She also shared, her mom with us. She's the one who, just last week she had to lay her mom to rest, but she has so many great memories of her mom that she shared. And so we were able to look at those, but that becomes the important thing. But there was a comment that was up there that stated that sometimes families don't know to ask what to ask. Families are not aware to ask the primary caregiver, connecting to those burdens, especially when it's not talked about. And that is true, right? Sometimes families just don't know. When you as you stated, your brother was doing this for 4 years without a complaint, so nobody knew to say, how are you doing? And that is what these type conversations are about, so that you can help people to understand better that even if a caregiver doesn't say something, that you learn through stuff like this, through conversations like this, that it is okay to ask. Because one of the things that is very difficult, and Larry, I know you know this, you just stated it, when you're in this situation, when you are the caregiver and you're in the house and you are the one, even with caregivers, I have people that are here daily for 8 hours a day while I'm working. But the thing about it is, when you're the person, you're that primary person that's there, and you're literally watching this disease just take everything that and you're watching this day in, day out, in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, that can take a toll on you. And, if you're like me, you don't complain about it, but that doesn't mean that emotionally it doesn't pull at everything that you have. Because, as I often say, this disease steals, it's a thief. It is a thief that steals, and it steals the things that are most important. It steals, it can't take away those memories, but there are other things that it snatches away. And, as you stated earlier as well, you're watching somebody literally, know they're, and I don't ever really want to get into saying, they've passed away while they're still alive. But in so many ways, that's kind of the feeling that you have. You are engaging, and you are, or lack thereof, with somebody who, this is your mom. She can't hold a conversation. You can't laugh in the ways that you want to sometimes, or if there's something going on with you, you no longer have that outlet of mom. My children can pick up the phone and call me and talk to me, and we have conversations, right? But then when you are the person who needs or wants, desires still to have that conversation with your mother, who is right here with you, and you can't, that's an inner pain, is all I can say. That it's heavy. It can be heavy.
It is something that you can't prepare for, because who really knows who's going to come down with this disease? Even though
Exactly.
some people say, yeah, it's been in my family, and yet you don't know. There are certain tests, but you still don't know. It doesn't if you take the test, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be afflicted with Alzheimer's or dementia, and it happens when you're least prepared. It happens when if you're living alone, you don't recognize it. My mom lived alone. She was actually diagnosed 2 years prior to my brother taking care of her, because the family did not know. Her primary care had sent her a letter, which we found after the fact, that she was diagnosed. But we didn't know until an accident happened. She went into the hospital. She had to have rehab along with surgery. And it's the doctors there that told us she had Alzheimer's. So you can't prepare until it's upon you. If you're seeing this on a regular basis, you're starting to see there's something different about them. They're forgetting this more and more. Their balance is off. Those kind of things that might initiate, well, maybe we ought to get this checked, and boom, you might be lucky enough to get a diagnosis. But most people don't find out that somebody is really afflicted with dementia or Alzheimer's until there's in the first or second stage. Some people are still driving around. You never know sometimes until something happens where sometimes it's too late. Somebody gets hurt, or for that matter, yes, a doctor's appointment comes up with, hey, yes, we think you have dementia. So, and you need
that's
people
because
to observe.
she was living alone. Is that what you said?
Alone.
She was living alone. You didn't.
We did not see it. Even though my brother, went over every now and then and sort of monitored her just to help out around the house and everything. Her independence of what she used to do, going out with the chorus, volunteering different places, going shopping, just basically stop. But unless you're there to observe those changes, do you recognize, hey, is there a problem? So it wasn't until she broke a broken ankle in the house, walking up some stairs, and then she got admitted to the hospital to get that fixed, and that's when we found out. So and then now you got to jump into the care, having somebody there 24/7 basically to ensure that she's safe in her home and taking care of her. There's certain things that you can't do once you've been diagnosed. And we had a gas stove. You don't want somebody around a gas stove. If you have a lot of trip hazards, yeah, there's a lot of little things and priority safety issues that you have to take into account. If you start to observe certain situations, you recognize that dementia is part of this equation, then you have an opportunity to prepare. This is what I try to do when I greet people, wherever I am, and I hear that, oh, we're starting to see changes. I want to be able to help the caregiver to say, okay, listen, this is how you prepare to help your loved one. I'm helping you. The more I can help the caregiver learn what to look for and what to say and what to do, that's going to benefit the person that's afflicted with the disease. So those things are being just precautionary and proactive, because hence we don't usually find out somebody is suffering from this disease until they're immersed into the disease. And as a caregiver, once you start taking care of somebody, you don't find out about the toll until you're immersed into taking care of somebody with this disease. And by that time, it's too late to have done the right things in the beginning. So that's kind of those stepping stones of lack of patience, frustration, raising your voice, cursing, all those little things that do happen, during the course of
when you don't have all that knowledge.
It's there. I've had these conversations with lots of people. It's kind of our confessions, because we're human, as people say. But you know something? If we knew what to expect when this disease is affecting your loved one, we kind of prepare to say, no, I can't say, hey, Mom, do you remember? I start by saying, Mom, I remember when. You're their memory. All these little things that'll help you, because those situations that I went through the first time I went home to take care of my mom, and I would say, hey, Mom, don't you remember? I just told you that 10 minutes ago. And I would do this 2 or 3 times in the course of a 5-minute stint. And then I'd get upset. Nah, what's wrong? What's wrong? That's my problem. But if I can eliminate that problem in a caregiver during those initial stages, to say they are not going to remember. If they do, God help us. Thank you very much. And they will remember things from time to time. But during those initial stages, that frustration of not knowing how to deal with sundowners, not knowing how to deal with a non-focus during the course of the day, or anxiety, or those things that they get more fearful of. Let me help you prepare for that, because those things are going to come. If they're not early, they're going to definitely come later. And if I help the caregiver prepare for that, it'll make them a whole lot better. And again, if I help that caregiver, now I've helped their loved one also.
That's it. Before I answer this question, I want to do this as well. And I know, Larry, that you're talking about situations when you have a caregiver who may be living alone, and you very well may not recognize it because you are not around. But I do want to put this plug in there for those who are in this area, in the Tallahassee area, Leon County area. I do want to put this plug in. If you are a caregiver or someone who loves someone who you notice there are some changes that may be going on with them, what I do want to do at this particular time, since he mentioned that, I want to throw this plug in there. If you do notice, we do have the Tallahassee Memorial Memory Disorder Clinic that is available here in the Leon County area. You can contact Whitney Scott at 850-431-9008. I will put her information up in the chat at the later point. But if you go to my website, it is on the page here. You can also find her information under the resource spot. But if you have a loved one that you see those signs and symptoms, they do free screenings at Tallahassee Memorial Memory Disorder Clinic. Do contact them. Put that question back up for me, Kaylin. So we have someone here who says, I've been wanting to help others also, but my grief has been so intense lately. I'm just past 5 months. Any advice on knowing when it's the right time to reach out and help others?
Reach out right away. Reach out right away. Just be persistent with that, little things. Again, if you've been a caregiver and you're trying to be in touch or help another caregiver, your experience is going to make the biggest difference. Empathy of what you've done, and you knowing what they're going through. You've walked in their shoes. And in a lot of cases, you don't have to go through every single aspect of your journey. There's so much of knowing somebody, if you've been a caregiver, that you don't have to say, because you've already recognized the emotions that you've been going through. But being there, being able to give somebody a shoulder or an ear to listen to what they're going through, if they want to talk about that, is great. But just having somebody there helps with that existence of loneliness that you're going to have. When somebody does not step in to say hi or how you doing, then you just basically, you're by yourself, and it's eating at you because you don't have anybody to talk to. Again, for me, I wouldn't even know what I would say to somebody if they called up and just said, well, what you going through? Because there are so many things to say, and I'd feel like I was complaining. But another caregiver doesn't have to ask that, what you're going through. It's just maybe crack a joke. Hey, listen, what can I do to come over and help you with this? Can I give you an hour here or something like that? Can we have a play date with our loved ones, basically? Having that physical presence is extremely important when you're going through this role. But also a good call here and there, just to break the monotony of the day, because you know, if nobody's calling and all you have to do is deal with the everyday mundane, as they say, Groundhog's Day with your mom, and the frustrations from the morning to the time you put them in bed at night. If you don't have something to sort of break that up, it makes it even tougher. And when you do that day after day after day, it really takes a severe toll on you. But if you've gone through this, you understand it, and be persistent and text them and call them. Hey, listen, let's just chat for a minute when your loved one's in bed or eating or something. Or if you can pop over, it makes a big difference for somebody to be able to show up and just give them a hug and let them know they're not forgotten. I was lucky. I had family members that came over. I had a lot of friends that basically called from across country. Hey, how you doing? We're thinking about you. That makes a difference. It truly does.
And I think, Kayla, put that question back up. I think she was asking, she says that she's been wanting, but she herself has been so intensely, let me be able to read correct. I've been wanting to help others also, but my grief has been so intense lately. I'm just past 5 months. And I'm not sure. I'm thinking that that's 5 months since her loved one passed away.
Right.
And so any advice on knowing when it's time to reach out to help others? How long did it take after your mom passed away? Was it right away?
Again, when my mom passed, I was lucky enough to have friends that would call just to see how I was doing, but I still had big periods of time where, in essence, sometimes I didn't want to talk to anybody, but it was nice when somebody was reaching in to see how I was doing. And in response to her question, I would say definitely don't wait. Even though it's intense now, guarantee you, if you're talking to somebody that's going through it and you can give them some kind of insight, suggestions, or help with their loved one, it'll make a difference for you. I know for me, when I talk to people currently, again, with my grief that's still going on, it helps me to help others. So that's, like I said, as we had talked, that's our therapy. And I guarantee you, being able to talk to somebody, there's a lot you don't have to say, but it's just being there for them. And they'll be there for you, even though your loved one has passed. So I'm sorry for their loss. And it's a progressive thing. It's a progressive thing. But if you're able to talk it out with somebody that understands what you just went through, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that, because if you don't reach out and you're just sitting there and you're just sitting in your grief, I don't think that that's a good thing for you to do either. If you're able to, and I know, initially it may be the tears and what have you, because that's your loved one, that's your mom, that's whoever it is you're caring for. But, I think as soon as you can get, for me, this is therapy for me, right? Being able to, as you said, help others, being able to share the journey. That is what helps me, even in my journey. My mom is still here, but it helps me to be able to help other people to understand this disease better, to be able to help those who love the people who are caring to understand what this is like even better. And so, I too would say, as soon as you feel like you can engage with other people, do it. Do it. It becomes a therapy for you. It becomes a healing for you, I would even dare to say, as you're able to talk about it. And because when you go to therapy, that's the same thing you're going to do. You're going to talk about it if that's what you choose to do. And so it can also bring healing to you in the midst of that. And, it gives you those opportunities to, at some points, not cry. You'll find opportunities to be able to smile, to be able to laugh when you're sharing, and you're able to pull up those memories and talk about, the times that you shared and the different things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And when you're helping with another friend, again, you're helping the friend that's going through it currently because they need it while they're in their journey. And since your journey with your mom or your loved one has ended, those emotions and your trials and tribulations can help that other person that's currently in their journey, still trying to figure out what is going to work. I mean, for me, again, well, how did you connect with your mother? Well, I had music, and I don't just show videos. I kind of want to be able to talk to somebody and say, well, why don't you try this? Hey, give me a call anytime, and I'll try to walk you through certain things. That makes a difference. Again, for us, Priscilla, you and I, when we talk to somebody, it's our therapy. I guarantee you, especially when you lost somebody, if you're talking to somebody else that understands what you just went through, maybe not the passing yet, but being able to help somebody that's currently on that journey, I guarantee you it'll make a difference in your life, and not just the person you're speaking to that's going through the journey currently.
Yeah. And Cheryl Ann says, helping others makes me feel like my mom and I did not walk this journey in vain. Purpose from pain. And that's what we have to look at. Purpose from pain. And that's something that I share with people a lot. There is a purpose, even though we can't always see it at the moment, there is a purpose in the pain. And so if you can tap into that, and as she said, I mean, it makes it where, it doesn't feel like what you were doing was in vain. What that said, I've been struggling with finding grief support. I've tried grief support groups, both in person and online, and individual therapy. Finding Larry recently in this podcast is helpful. Thank you so much for being on. And that's what it's all about. We're here to help support each other, right? Some of us know the pain of grief from just being in the role. When you're caring for someone with Alzheimer's or one of the other dementias, we understand the grief from that side. And then there are those of you who understand it from this side of being the caregiver to now actually the physical absence. And so I think sometimes too, when you look at those support groups, sometimes, especially, and I always try not to, I don't ever want to make it seem as if Alzheimer's or one of the other dementias are, that it's any, I don't like to put it above any other disease that someone may be enduring, but it can be gut wrenching, because it's just, some of as the stages change and there's something new, even my mom is at a later point now. I mean, she's still able to walk around and, she's at a stage now where she is, laying down a lot more. She's not getting up as much, but she still gets up, and she's still definitely my mother every day. But there are times when there are things that happen that is new, things that I've not seen before. And it's like with every new change, every new thing that you see, that's another, it's almost like something else is taken away from you. And so there's a grief in that, sometimes people that are not in that particular situation, they don't get it. They don't always understand exactly what that feels like. And so that's exactly again, what we're building here. We're building this community. You have myself, Larry, Cheryl Lynn is on here. She's under Sandy's daughter. And she's going to be on the podcast with me as well, just talking about her journey as well. But you have these, and that's another platform for you, as you're looking for other support. Sandy's daughter, she's a phenomenal trainer as well. And so she has great information. So feel free to reach out. I'm sure, Larry, I can speak for you as well. Feel free to reach out to any of us, even as you're dealing with your loss and dealing with, if you're a caregiver and you're on this journey and you like about to pull your hair out, because trust me, I don't have much on my head, but some days I'm about to pull a little bit off that I do have. But feel free to reach out to us because, we've been on here for a while, and it doesn't mean I don't get what I'm going through after losing my mom, but I'll keep exactly. Right. You may not get it, but you got to keep going, and that's what we're here for. Go ahead, Larry.
One thing you had mentioned, community, the caregiver support groups that are on Facebook specifically. There's millions of people. I'm like on 12 different websites. And though I'm not involved with every single one, because I know when you go on those, I know my initial feeling was, man, it's sad because people are looking for answers. They're looking for something because it's their first experience through this, of course. And, what do you do with your loved one when they do this? How do you deal with incontinence? So, there's a whole realm of questions that people are going to come up. On those websites are people that are going through the same thing you're going through. Hopefully you can make that connection. But that's the community that you want to talk to. Because again, a caregiver knows what a caregiver is going through. You don't just Google it and then find an answer. Somebody that has walked in your shoes is your best resource, and highly recommend going to. And even if we can't give a specific answer, I feel guilty when I hang up the phone with somebody because I can't stop the disease from progressing. I know what their next day is going to be like, and the day after that, and daylight. But I gave them a moment of my time to listen and understand, and maybe give, hey, this is what I did with my mom. Hopefully it'll work with other people. But those circumstances that you have somebody that you can talk to, again, there's very little you need to say in most cases because you already know the emotional toll that they're going through. But being able to give suggestions, or for that matter, just give companionship, to give a little bit of community, to know that somebody out there is going through what you're going through, and you have the access to them somewhere along the line within that support group that you're in, or for that matter, exchange numbers. I always wanted to be able to initiate some kind of program that you could find other caregivers within your zip code. My goodness, having somebody there close that you can have, again, a play date, somebody you can talk to, somebody you can stop over, have a cup of coffee with, are the opportunities that are right there underneath our nose that we can take advantage of if we could ever set something like that up, because we're everywhere. Caregivers are everywhere. And the opportunity to support each other definitely goes a long way. Just a little bit of contact, a new friend, somebody to call when you really need it and understands what you're talking about. That's what's most important in this journey.
Yeah. And so we're here. I'm going to say as well, there's another support group. Now, I will say this. I would also, and I've seen it, right? When we start talking about anything, it's going to show up in the algorithms. And so I've seen so many dementia support groups out there that have just popped up in my algorithm. I'm not on every last one of them. I don't join every last one of them. I think that you do have to, I don't necessarily like some of the public groups, because some of the information is not all there. But there are some really good ones that are out there. And I will say one of the ones that I highly recommend, it's actually on my website, is Dementia with Grace. And I actually found that support group whenever my mom would get into another stage or behaviors that I just did not understand. I always do research. In my research, I ran across a book that was called Dementia with Grace, and read the book. Excellent book, helped me to understand a whole lot on a whole different level. But she also had a Facebook group. And so I immediately joined that group, and it has been, so worth it. And so I do highly recommend that. It's called Dementia with Grace. If you're on this journey and you're looking for, even you're new at it, that book, she has a second volume, and we've actually, me and the author, we've actually become friends. Her name is Vicki Fitch. And so she has those books out there, but her group is amazing as well. So, but definitely we are here. We are real live people. If you're in, and I know, it's not all over. I'm not sure what a lot of the resources are in other areas. I am building that as well, as resources. But if you're in the Tallahassee area, there are several support groups. There are different they're having trainings through quite a few of the organizations. I'll talk about some of those at the very end, but definitely connect. But if you're just looking for some, because sometimes you just need somebody to just listen, right? Sometimes you just need to vent. And I've seen that in these groups, right? Because now with a lot of these groups, and even in Dementia with Grace and some of the other dementia groups that are out there, I've seen now they let you post anonymously. I like the private groups better because I think that gives people opportunity to really, because sometimes people just want to say what they say, right? And because as a caregiver, sometimes you do get frustrated. That's just the reality of it. So you have people, and then you have people who, when you have 10,000 people in a group, there may be a question that you were wondering that somebody has asked, and you may have, 300, 400, 500 people that come in. And so those groups are very good for that as well. You can go in and, make your post. But, if you're on this other side, I've not seen a group. And Larry, maybe this is something for you, or, Cheryl Ann. I'm not there at that space, but perhaps maybe it's a group that is established for people who have been on this journey, and now the role has switched to, I'm no longer a caregiver. And so that role ended. But I want to jump back over there real quick before we kind of get ready to wrap this up a little bit. I want to go back over to that side for you, Larry, and just looking at even your post that you made, and you were talking about how, the silence that came, because it was you, your mom, of course, you had the caregiver who came in and provided care for her. And excuse me, but that day when, everything happened and you ended up back home and it's nobody but you. What does that look like? What did that look like for you when you walk into that silence, and now you got to figure out what's next?
You're lost. You're lost. You're lost. I had spent my last time home taking care of mom. It was over about 5 years. You were in routine. You knew what your mornings were going to be like. You knew what your afternoons, you knew what the evenings, even though the day, 12 hours of it, Gertrude, our caregiver, was taking care of mom, but I was taking her to the park in between. When Gertrude was gone, boom, I had her from 7:30 until I put her in bed. Your routine, the sounds of knowing that she's in there. She's either watching the TV, boom, mom's there, or playing her music. I had an iPod that had a nice playlist, and I knew she was just enjoying it. The routine of getting up in the morning, having to take care of my things while she was being dressed and fed and everything else, and then to come back home, boom, we're to the park, we're going to the ride, we're going on a ride, whatever we were going to do for that day. I gave of myself to her so that she could have a life. I was lucky enough to have a caregiver that took care of those incidentals, taking care of her in the morning and fixing her dinner and so on and so on. When she wasn't there, boom, I had to do everything. I just still couldn't put on mom's bra. I couldn't get that clasp. I had to get used to that. But that's part of it. I mean, there's aspects of caregiving that you're not comfortable with. The bathroom times, taking her out and all those things. I've had to actually jimmy up underneath a stall door that she got stuck on in the ladies' room a couple times. You do what you have to do. And those aspects of taking care of her are what you miss most of all. even though it was difficult. We could walk to a Walmart and all of a sudden, boom, she'd be confused and she'd call out for police because she didn't know who I was. And I'd have to remain calm. But I just had to complete that trip with her and try to calm her down and try to do what we were going to do, get back in the car. Regardless of how hard those moments were, that's what you were all about, taking care of her and then understanding those circumstances that you were going to go through something that was uncomfortable. But then also those times where we were able to do those videos and have some fun and enjoy some ice cream or hear her sing a chocolate song. All those things became a part of me on a daily basis. Having that is what got me through that journey. Being able to put her in those situations for her to enjoy herself, helped me enjoy myself. That gave me fulfillment during the day. And when I came home and nobody was there, you don't know who to call. You don't know to go look for her to check in on her. You're just not prepared. And then the subsequent days afterwards, it doesn't get any easier. So you start to adjust to a certain extent. You try to find something to fill those voids, and it still gets tougher. But even though you might do something physically to keep you busy, it's still in the back of your head. And that stays with you the longest time. And to this day, it still stays there. So for me, even with that there, I'm able to look at her videos and enjoy. I'm able to share her videos to other people to enjoy. I'm able to help people help themselves. That's what gets me through now. But it's still a journey.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel like you had to rediscover who you were outside of
Yes.
caregiving once that happened?
Yes, yes. And my circumstances and everybody's journey is different. Mom was fine on Sunday and she passed on Monday afternoon. I did not have a time to prepare myself for that. I didn't have time to figure out what am I going to do beyond that. And it wasn't a matter of what I'm going to do, how I'm going to get through this type thing. And everybody goes through this. You don't know what it's going to be like until you're immersed into that situation, immersed into the disease, to be a good caregiver, and then immersed back into your regular life once they're gone. How do you go through, not just emotionally, but employment-wise, financially, all those things. And that surprise, has maintained itself to stick. I still say I'm still building a life, trying to figure out, okay, where I'm going to go with this now. But I found out that helping others is what keeps me going.
Okay. And so that's what helped you find your footing again, being able to help the next
Yes.
person.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about, when you've done it for so long. And, I would be lying if I didn't say I don't think about those things, especially over the last few months as my mom has progressed. You think about, what does this look like? Because sometimes the reality is you can get lost in the caregiving. You give everything you have and I know for me, I give everything I have because I know that there was a point that my mom gave everything she had for me. And so you give all of that, you make that sacrifice, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and it's no longer there. And there are so many people who find themselves in that same space. And so you have to realize that, you got to be able to pick yourself up in some type of way. I know Sherilyn mentioned it earlier. It's being able to continue. And it doesn't mean that every day, especially when it first happens, right? It doesn't mean you're going to want to jump up out of the bed immediately and like, woo, let's go and help somebody else.
Right.
Those first few days or months or however, it may be a little bit difficult to pull yourself together. But when you find your footing and realize that, you gave everything you could give. You gave, I actually told Sherilyn, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but I actually told her, I'm like, listen, take some time for you. I have to tell myself that. But you've been at this thing for 10 years. Take at least, 6 months to just regroup, get you together, be able to woosah a little bit. And I know it's difficult because the routine is, I think she and I talked about that routine where you're so used to waking up at a certain time. At this particular time, I'm doing this, and all of this has changed. It's not there anymore, you know. So those first, I mean, I don't expect, even with her, I don't expect her to just jump up with all the great work that she's doing, with everything, that is going on. I don't expect her to just jump up, and my thing is day by day.
Right.
Moment by moment, minute by minute sometimes. But as you
Right.
continue, you'll find that space again where you're able to, yes, that caregiver role has changed, but all of that stuff that you learned along the way, take that and help other people to also. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about, you going back and strengthening your brother, right? When you come through, you go back and you strengthen your brother. And I think that's a part of what we also have to do, at that point where we go back and we offer what are those things, as you stated, what are those things that helped you through? What are those things that, were able to get you through when you may have felt like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This not going, because there are days where you do want to get in the bed and pull the covers over your head. There are days sometimes where I'm like, I just want to take care of me. I don't want to take care of anybody else today. You have those days and you're entitled, right? You're entitled to those days. But when you can get back to that place, because you will find strength, you will find, peace as well, and being able to share and to strengthen somebody else that's right there now. Go ahead.
Priscilla, usually when I speak to people or I've spoken in groups, other podcasts, I start off by saying I was the luckiest caregiver in the world. I had 2 brothers in Baltimore that, hey, I want to go out tonight. Boom, somebody would pop over and relieve me for the evening, or sometimes even a weekend if I get away. I had a sister in Pennsylvania who would come down every month and a half to 2 months and give me a sustained break. I come back to California and I can hang out here for a week just to get that physical break. I had a caregiver 7 days a week, 12 hours, paid for by insurance. God knows who has that these days, or the capabilities of
you were blessed.
and I was blessed in so many ways. And with that, and I would have saved this for the book, I am putting in a book I'm writing. My second time home, I tried to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
Having all that made me recognize the depression of seeing Mom go through. We did have some family dynamics that took place. Circumstances of what's my future going to look like. I was already pulling out of my retirement. A whole lot of litany of different circumstances that were just depressing, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And it was just one afternoon I thought, boom, let's try. Thank goodness I did not. I recognized I hurt more than I felt. But I recognized also at that point, because I had all these benefits of being a caregiver, so much support, brother took care of all the finances as far as Mom was concerned, just a whole lot of things taken care of. All I had to do was take care of Mom. But this is what it got me to. And it made me realize all those people out there that are caregivers, that don't have the siblings that help out, that don't have the money for even assisted living, don't have all that extra stuff that I had that made your life a little bit easier and helped you care for your loved one. And yet I got that low with all that support I had. I recognized that definitely I could not just walk away. I had to be out there that people know that I know how you feel, regardless of whether or not you have somebody that comes in, that you have siblings that help. But I still know that you're watching your loved one go through a progressive disease, that you feel helpless, that you can't stop. and you're watching them, as we had said, losing them little by little, day by day, month by month, for as long as you might have them. That's the toughest role, watching that and not knowing what to do, but making the most of those moments that while you're going through that, you can at least give them a smile, give them your time, give them your attention. For me, I gave mom the park. I gave her rides in the park. You know, those little things were necessary to help, again, sustain not just me, but her during her journey. And I was
Yeah.
lucky enough to show through our videos that even as depressing as it is, how sad it is to go through this journey with somebody suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, there can still, or you can still find some joy by what you're doing with them, the interaction, the music, the ice cream, the whatever that they enjoy, for those moments to take advantage of, because it does make a difference. And if you pile those moments up, it can help you get through a day and help you get through your journey as best as possible. But I got lucky. I really got lucky.
Yeah. Everybody doesn't have it, but with
Right.
what you do have, you know, make the best of it. Gigi says, after I completed the caregiver role, I had to relearn how to take care of myself. It was hard at first figuring
Yes.
out what to do with all of that extra time. And that is a part of it. You know, again, I'm not on that side just yet, praise God. But, you know, I'm sure, you know, God forbid, but if she passes away before me, I'm sure that's going to be a part of it. And that is exactly what you have to do. Cheryl Ann says she went to Busch Gardens for a walk today. Thank you. I'm glad you were able to get out. But you do whatever you have to do to be able to get through that. Thank you so much. Your mothers are both beautiful, as are your caring souls. I'll definitely buy Larry's book once he writes it and publish it. There you go. You got your first purchase right there. But yeah, you know, slow and steady. That's what Cheryl Ann says, slow and steady. And that's it. You know, if you have to cry, what I realize with grief is it really is okay to laugh and cry at the same time. You can laugh and you can cry at the same time, and it is perfectly okay. You do what you have to do to get through. Larry, I'm going to ask you this question as well, and we're going to get ready to wrap up in just a moment. But what do you wish people outside of caregiving truly understood? People that are not caregivers, what do you wish that they truly understood?
I wish they understood what their family member was going through just a little bit, to step in and experience the role. We can tell you what we're going through, but you don't understand it until you experience the role. Even if it's for a couple hours, just to make sure that you understand what your sibling or your spouse is going through on not just a daily basis, but an hourly basis. I get to the point where I say, you really don't. I can tell you that to get hit in the head with a hammer, you know that hurts, right? But until you actually get hit in the head with that hammer, you know how much it hurts.
Yeah.
And to be able to experience that role just a little bit helps you understand that, number one, just a little bit of help for your sibling or spouse, whomever is going through that caregiver role, just a little bit of help goes a long way. I also end my speeches with people. You don't want to get to the point when it's all said and done to say, I wish I had stepped in. I wish I had called. I wish I'd have gone over. I wish I'd have understood what they went through. Get to the point you're saying, I'm glad I did stop in. I did make that call. I helped with getting a substitute caregiver for a day to give my loved one, my sibling or so, a day at the spa, go to the gym or something like that. Make the difference for yourself, because once it's all said and done, it's too late. And it is important for you to understand what the role requires. Not to go through all the emotions. You definitely will, but I guarantee you're going to go through some severe emotions if you don't step in and try to understand what the person that's caregiving is going through. So just give a little bit of something, which will go a long way. Because if you help the caregiver, like I said, you've helped the loved one that they're taking care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final question for you. If you could sum up your experience in one truth for others, what would that be?
Understanding. When I say understanding, don't try to figure out what your loved one's going through. but understand that they're going through something they don't understand. Understand that you have to be patient, that you have to learn to be in their moment. Don't try to change them. They're already changing. You try to change with them. That makes a difference for you as a caregiver. Don't try to challenge yourself too much, because you can't fight the disease. People don't understand the disease just doesn't affect the person that's afflicted with it, but it affects the persons that are around it. It's sad to see that your loved one's going through something that you cannot control, but be a part of that. Be there, be present, be helpful, be in touch, be interactive. Whatever you can do will make a difference. It goes a long way. It goes a long way. As a caregiver, you can't always say what you're going through, because saying it doesn't really give you that feeling of what you're really going through. As I said, that hammer example, I said, you really have to step in to understand those specifics of what goes on during the course of the day and taking care of somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's. You don't know until you've walked in our shoes.
Yeah. And there you have it. Thank you all so very much. Larry, thank you for being on tonight. Thank you for coming on, sharing a piece of your journey. I know that others were blessed by this conversation on tonight. And so I want to thank you for taking out the time in your evening. Well, it's even in there now, almost where you are. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to reach out to you. And
Priscilla, and I do want to invite all that are listening. If you haven't been on my Facebook page, truly go watch Mom do her thing. She is one unique lady. That's how we got to be in this position, is people loving her on Facebook and the videos that I continue to share. And I hope that this helps other people that are going through a journey.
Yep. And if you didn't see it, it's on there now. You can contact Larry on Facebook at Larry A. Griner, on Instagram at LAG0211, and then on YouTube at Norma and Larry's Journey. Go out there, check them out. And she's beautiful, Larry. She's beautiful. Those videos that I watched, and I know that those memories are precious for you to just be able to go back and to see. So thank you again. I want to remind you all as well, you can go to my website at www.priscillajjohnlouis, Priscilla.Jean-Louis. It is there on the banner as well. Go over there and you can check out the website there. There is a resource spot out there. I'm going to add Larry's information. I'll add his information to the website as well. So you can just go out there and click on that as well, up under the podcast resources. But there are resources out there for you as well, especially if you are in the Leon County area. There are resources out there. There are events out there. We have some events that are coming up. We have some that will be going on this weekend that I do want to mention. But before I mention those, Caitlin, if you would put it up, I do have a book out myself. It is the Hey Caregiver. It's a devotional and prayer journal. For me, it has been devotions and prayer and journaling and all that has helped me through this journey for the last 10 years. So you can actually go to my website. You can purchase that. It is a wonderful book. It's not just for caregivers. I think it's for anybody would be blessed with. There's also some merchandise out there as well. There's some t-shirts, some keychains, and what it is, it says, hey caregiver, you are valued. Hey caregiver, God honors you. There's a couple different sayings out there, because what we want caregivers to know is that, as somebody on here already said, you are superheroes. You're superheroes, and we want you to know that you are loved, you are valued, you are seen. God honors you in what you're doing. And so you can go to the website as well and purchase that. And then about 2 weeks ago, I released an album for caregivers. It's out there on all digital platforms. And so you can go out there and you can take a listen to the album. It is just something that I hope and pray and I know is going to strengthen and empower caregivers. If you're out there, you're having a hard time, take a listen to the album. I know that it's going to bring you strength, and it's going to bring you piece. And so you can go out, all of that is out there on my website. You can listen to that album on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, YouTube. It's out there. Just type it in, Hey Caregiver, and it will pop up. Thank you so much, Kaylin. And then we do have some events, as I was saying, that's coming up this weekend. We have the Sportsability Expo, Tallahassee. That's April 17th and 18th. That is out on the Facebook page as well as my website. You can go check that out. We have the Caring with Heart Caregivers Conference that is being hosted by Big Ben Hospice. That is going to be this Saturday, April 19th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is going to be at Jack McLean. And so if you're a caregiver, you need this information, please come out. The admission for it is free. They will have respite as well as child care services available. And then there is an Acts 2 live next Thursday. You can get on Acts 2, their group. They're going to have a live as well. And this week, they're going to be talking about maximizing health and well-being for loved ones with dementia, with a special focus on palliative care. I know I've seen so many people in these groups lately that have been asking whether or not the palliative care, is it worth it? This would be a great one. It is live. Their information is on there. And so from wherever you are in the world, you can jump on and they can tell you a lot more about the palliative care. So do jump on that. And then last but certainly not least, the Alzheimer's Project, and this is in June, but they have their disease education and training conference that they host every year. So all of this information is also on the website. And so you all, what we try to do here on this podcast is to provide these resources to you if you are in the area. And that way you don't have to go it alone. Kaylin, you can take it down. You don't have to go it alone. You have help. You have community. And again, I will say, if you're out there and you're looking for somebody, you just need somebody to talk to, you have Larry here, myself, Sandy's daughter, reach out. We're all on this platform. It's okay. Shoot us a message, message us, whatever. We don't want you suffering by yourself. We're here. We are community for you. We've been there, done that, still doing it. And we're here. We're here for you. I don't mind. I'll pray with you, all of it, whatever it is it takes. We don't want you to be suffering alone. Thank you again. Kaylin, thank you so much. She's in the background running the show on tonight. And I do want to say, before I get off, on this Saturday, my wonderful, wonderful niece, Zamoria Johnson, her birthday is this Saturday. Happy birthday in advance. All right. I wanted to give that shout out right here on the podcast since we are live. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.